Hello, welcome back to the channel, The PROWIRC Method, where we discuss concepts from the book Happiness and Well-Being Through Balance and Progress, The PROWIRC Method. Today we're actually going to discuss a couple more questions that I think of the questions that get sent in through my website at theprowircmethod.com. I think these are two of the most common questions these days. And interestingly, the first one is, what is the best way to use this book? And the second one, which I don't think I've ever addressed directly, is what benefits can I hope to quickly gain? So that's interesting, right? Because, you have a book and you would think, okay, people are just going to get the book and read through it from front to back. But, these days I think there's a lot of sort of pressure on people, time pressure, and they feel that anytime they invest their personal time in something, they need some pretty quick uptake. They need some good results right away. They only have so much sort of available time, discretionary. This is one of the topics we actually work on in the book, actually. But as a result of that, the two questions that really come up the most are, what's the best way to use the book, and what benefits can I hope to quickly gain? So on the topic of what's the best way to use the book, I'm going to say this for any book that you're going to look at, including this one. If it's self-help or, these days the word self-actualization comes out a lot, essentially trying to make improvements in your own life. And I think that the best way for anyone to approach that is the way that suits them best. Now that's probably going to sound a little bit simpler, cliche, but actually what I really mean by that is the way that makes it easiest for you to engage, the way that attracts you the most to engage these topics in your life of things that you want to improve. So some people will pick up a book like this, or this book, hopefully, and they'll go to a chapter that's on a specific topic because that's a topic of interest for them right now. And it's a thought or a concern or something that they're, currently, it's probably the reason they're there picking up the book in the first place. They see something that pertains to that. And that's a perfectly, good way to do it. In the book, Happiness, Well-Being Through Balance and Progress, the PROWIRC Method, there are chapters on each of the areas of PROWIRC. So obviously power being your mental and physical energy and power and knowledge and all of the things that go with your power as a person. Relationships, obviously if people are thinking, in my happiness and well-being in my world, I could, benefit by improving my relationships, they may go directly to that chapter. The chapter on organization, of course, not only is a chapter to help you come up with systems to organize things, but in that topic of, I don't have enough time in my life, discretionary time, it really brings out the topic of, are we organizing a bunch of things that we've carried forward in our life that no longer relate to us, no longer relate to our interests, no longer, are really not in any way, important to our life anymore. And I think we spend years and hours and weeks and months and lots of time organizing things we could just say, hey, you know what? I'm getting rid of that. That's an old interest of mine. It doesn't benefit me. It doesn't help me. And if you just literally, while you're looking through the book and you're reading that thing on organization, you go through your life and say, hey, you know what? These are things I'm simply doing out of habit for old time's sake. And you let those things go, you're going to have a lot more discretionary time. Obviously, the chapter on wealth goes through some nuts and bolts about wealth, commonly held ideas and things about how to consider it. The topic on image. A lot of books like this don't have a topic on image. That's something that we put in there. And again, it's not to have an image that someone else wants for you, or to have an image for some artificial reason, like wow, I, hope to look more like some, famous movie star or something like that. But no, to what is the image that I'm projecting to myself every day and to other people? And does it have continuity with the direction I want to go in my life? Relaxation, some people will look at the chapter on that because they pick up the book because they're exhausted, they're stressed, they're tired, and maybe they're not well rested. And there's going to be some nuts and bolts in the chapter on that, and also to get you to think about it. Obviously, there's a chapter on the last acronym letter in the PROWIRC method is the C for creativity. Now, I think creativity is one of the things that in your life you need to most engage. And because it is our godlike power, it can also help you solve a lot of problems in your life. But creativity, I think, has other powers as well. Creativity, for some reason, also has an attribute of giving you youthful vigor, and if you're already young, giving you more energy, giving you more inspiration, upping your motivation factor without you having to work so hard at it. I find every time I take time specifically in my life to engage my creativity, even if it's to problem solve. And let's face it, when you're problem solving, you're generally not feeling the most inspired, right? You get into that because you're getting kind of beaten down by a problem and you aim to try to solve it. But even then, when you start to use your power of creativity, you will suddenly, I don't know, you feel this wave of optimism. You feel this, wow, maybe I feel a little bigger and my problems feel a little smaller, in the sense of abilities, and you get what I'm saying there. Anyway, no matter where you start in this book, in this concept, or in these type of self-improvement times in your life, you can suddenly get an uptake in your feeling of well-being and a little boost in your happiness because you start making progress right away. But the idea is, in that question, where to start in whichever one of these areas, draws you in to the point where you're going to actually do something about the way you're feeling. That's the best way to go about that. Also, if you just want to do the old-fashioned thing of starting at the beginning and going all the way through, I think what you're going to find is an uptake in all these areas. And really, how far can you change your life with a system like this? I mean, sky's the limit. You can obviously get as much change as you target, as suits you. Some people, they're looking to make a few little changes and get an uptake in their general well-being and happiness. Some people are going, okay, I need a clear slate here. I'm not enjoying any of this, and I want a lot of change. And I think you can accomplish all those goals with this. So that would be the way to best use that book. Now, the second question, what benefits can I hope to quickly gain? What benefits can I hope to quickly gain? Sorry about that. A little stumbling there. I'm not going to restart the camera because one of the things you'll find on my channel, I don't do any editing at all. I feel I have some information. I'm going to present it in a personal way. I'm going to present it in an honest way. And honestly, in case you're thinking about someday you might be presenting your information, you can actually see that, you can make mistakes and still present your information. So hopefully we get something out of that. We're not just shooting for some degree of cinematic perfection here. We're communicating ideas. So I hope you enjoy that as well, and I hope that you'll be less hard on yourself when you see my foibles there from time to time. So what benefits can I hope to quickly gain? Get to know yourself better. That is one of the number one benefits. If you are going through the book, for instance, from the front, where we're talking about how do we develop a mission statement, how do we reverse engineer our goals to really start to understand our motivations, how do we get in alignment in our life with the things that are really important to us. I mean, right off the bat, you're definitely getting to know yourself better. Getting to know yourself better is, I think it's a gift that you can give to yourself and to your whole life. The next thing that you're going to be able to do that happens right away is that you are going to you're going to be able to spot areas in your life that you may have been ignoring. Now, with the concept of balance in the PROWIRC method, the reason we put balance as one of those big items, and we have these 7 areas, and we simply want you to keep the 7 areas in a state of progress for balance. And that is that in your life you get so much from balance. You get well-being, and you really get a general feeling of contentment. Now, also, sometimes when people have, there's something going on in their life that's kind of bringing them down, but they can't even figure out what it is at the moment, it's often one area of your life that's out of balance and it's dragging the other areas down. So just, that's going to be something, just to consider the 7 areas and begin to pull your life back into balance. You're going to feel something right off the bat from that. The next thing you're going to get is that to understand that simple progress in your life is as important to your well-being as accomplishment. Now, this is sort of hard to imagine in a way, but a person says, well, when I complete something and I attain it, I do it, I get the thing completed and I accomplish it, I get a big uptake in my my well-being, and I feel great. So that's got to be the number one thing. Well, interestingly, sometimes the accomplishment of a goal can be a distant, far off thing. It could be 6 months away. It could be a year. It could be 5 years. Progress is something you can make today. I've talked about it in other videos. When you zoom into your life, into your goals, to the point where you look at that part I can do today and make progress today, you get that feeling, that uptake in your mood to say, hey, wow, progress actually gives me an uptake in my well-being and my happiness. Now, the other thing that you might find about that as well when you're talking about accomplishment versus just progress. Here is the thing about accomplishment. Yeah, I love when we complete something. I love when we have an accomplishment. And it's in our pocket for the rest of our life to say, hey, I accomplished that, and that's great. But I'll tell you, here's where progress overrides it. The very next day after your accomplishment, or certainly within a few days or a week or two, if you don't continue on in your life with the idea of progress, the accomplishment begins to fade. You don't have the uptake. You think, oh, that's still great. But why am I not getting that buzz off it anymore? Why am I not getting that sort of, wow, that good feeling? Because even accomplishment is a part of progress. Progress is probably the main component of accomplishment that gives you that good feeling. So it's going to give you an uptake from the understanding that you just have to make progress for quite an uptake in your mood. The next thing, the benefit that you're going to get is when we talk about creativity, and we've talked about it a bit earlier here in this video, it's going to give you methods to harness and develop your creative power. Now, you can use that creative power to help you solve problems. We talked about that earlier. But and every time you do that, you're going to get an uptake in the solution for the problem. Firstly, is going to help you, but also just using that power of creativity, it gives you rejuvenation. It gives you energy. It gives you optimism. Creative power gives you a lot of things. It really makes you feel different about yourself to say, wow, I have this creative power. That begins to mean something to you. To me, it means something to me. The other side of creativity, and the book is really going to help you dig into that, is to work on projects of creativity for creativity's sake. Maybe you're not a person that's worked on art projects. Maybe you're not a person that's developed your writing skills, or a painter, or you've never, done any sort of development of ideas in the sense of just for the purpose of creativity. The book is going to suggest that you spend a certain amount of time every day. In fact, there's just a simple 15-minute thing a day where you're choosing a topic to be creative on. And for the 15 minutes, you just write down every creative idea, everything that pops into your mind to do with that topic. And what you're doing there is engaging your creativity. You're doing it without pressure on yourself. And when you're doing that, you're definitely going to get an uptake in your mood. You're going to get an uptake in your power. And then it works its way into your life just like any other skill. So that when you are dealing with a situation, with a problem, with something that pops up, I do believe your creativity will be there at the ready to help you solve these problems in better ways than you've ever done it before. And not that you didn't have the power, but maybe you were out of practice of saying, I'm a creative being and I can address this. I have a creative methodology that I use here, like the one we have in the book, where you sit down and you take the time period and you just brainstorm it without pressure on yourself. You start doing these things and you're going to start to get this feeling of, wow, I do believe I'm more creative than I thought I was. I do believe I have more creative power than I thought I had. And then you're going to find out that hidden inside of that you're going to have a lot of talents that are stronger than you thought. Maybe even, maybe you're going to find out talents that you didn't even realize you had. That creative power, that is going to be one of the uptakes, and one of the benefits in using this system. And we're going to remind you that in the last, one of the last chapters of the book, I think the last chapter, staying power is often the ability to keep restarting. I do have people say to me, I can start things, but I just don't have staying power. I see other people like, Ron, you started this book and you completed it, and you wrote it. And I've started projects and I haven't finished them. And I'll tell you, whether it be this book that I wrote or any of the creative projects that I'm working on, the only way they got completed is because I kept restarting. Yeah, there's times where you're feeling inspired and you're feeling, wow, hot to go, and you're doing all these things and keeping everything in progress. And, you're feeling that extra power just from doing all of that. And you're working on your projects and you're really kicking it and you're making all kinds of progress. And no matter what kind of system you're using, there's going to be times for whatever reason. Something knocks you off base. You just, sometimes we feel different in a day. We wake up and we just don't feel as motivated. Sometimes for whatever reason, we can feel less energetic. Maybe we didn't sleep as well. Whatever the reason, there are going to be times where even if you're the most on-task person in the world, you're going to be completely off task. And let me tell you, the only reason I got this book done, again, something that you discover at the end of the book, and I talk about it and put it out there, is the ability to keep restarting on your goals and plans. If I didn't keep restarting, probably no less than 100 times, I wouldn't have the book done. I wouldn't be having those concepts clearly put together in a way that I utilize them all the time. I mean, once the book is done and you have it completed and you've done all your creative exercises and you've worked on this for years and years and years, and then it's crystallized and finished and you go back through it yourself, you're like, wow, are these really my ideas? Because the thing about your power of creativity, it goes so far. It's so omnipotently powerful that you ultimately come up with creative ideas that in the end, when you're done polishing them, assembling them and whatever, you're actually learning from them like third-party ideas that you haven't, that you're just hearing for the first time. And it's interesting on that. And of course, obviously, in the editing of my book, which I went through the entire book 12 or 14 times in the years that I was writing it, in the years when I was road testing these concepts, you're working on all those things and you get to know it really well. I can tell you that. But these days, every time I'm reading an area or thinking about something to do for this show, and people say, where do you keep coming up for the ideas of that? As I'm going back through these ideas that I developed through creative process, I get a different idea or a different look or a different creative interaction with all of these ideas. And you're going to get that as well. Anyway, you're going to get that, and you're going to complete projects, and you're going to have success because of also your ability to restart. I think that is also one of the benefits. I mean, obviously, I could go on and on about that. I think I get different benefits from this book every day, but I think those are the main ones that you can get, and uptakes that you can get quickly. Don't forget, we have a mantra that I've written for this channel in the last little while, and we're saying it all the time, and I think you could write it down and say it if you're starting this journey, or you're at any point in your journey, or you're just having ups and downs, or your negative self-talk, whatever's happening, and you're starting to want to move forward. You can pull out this mantra for yourself. I am a unique being, separate from my situation. I possess the godlike power of creativity, and I choose the power of creativity and thankfulness over fear, apprehension, or anxiety every minute of every day. Thanks for coming back to the channel today. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content. I think it helps the YouTube algorithm help me share it with other people. Have a great day, and we'll see you next time.